Hey guys, Tony here, and I'm back to do something I haven't done in a while. I'm back to talk about an album. I'm going to do a vinyl collections must have. It's a series. I'm sure some of you have seen my videos. I only really did a few. Every once in a while, I'll listen to an album I haven't listened to in a while, or a classic album, common album usually. Um, and I feel like talking about it. And in this case, I saw a video this morning, and on Jason's Vinyl Obsession, he posted a recent finds video, and he showed this album, and I was surprised that he didn't have it. I think I kind of take for granted that maybe not everybody has these, what I consider to be these very common albums, these staples, I guess. Come to think of it, quite a few people have picked this up recently in the past couple months on the vinyl community and have showed it. But this is an album that I grew up with, knew since I was a kid, always had a copy in some format. Um, so yeah, I saw it in Jason's Vinyl Obsession and I listened to it today, and I guess I just figured I'd talk about it. Very common record, and really I do think this is one that everybody should own. Um, or at least be very familiar with. Um, the album is Paranoid, Black Sabbath. This is Black Sabbath's second LP, second album, and there's all these. I think maybe more so back in the day. Who knows? Maybe some people still feel this way. That they're this heavy metal band that they're Satan worshippers. They have all these dark kind of connotations around them, and that's really not the case. I think Black Sabbath kind of just thought it would be. I think they were just kind of cashing in on a scary kind of theme. Very different than what was going on in 1969 with sunshine and flowers and things like that. So it was definitely a different approach for them to take. But that's all it was. That they weren't really into black magic or anything like that. I don't think they ever were, but some people could think that, I guess. And I guess that's kind of what they wanted you to think. But anyway, just a great rock and roll band, a great heavy rock band, pioneers of heavy metal, based out of the UK. You have obviously Ozzy Osbourne, the original lead singer, Tony Iommi, lead guitarist, fantastic guitarist. Geezer Butler, bass player. Again, you just have a great band here. And Bill Ward, just, in the beginning especially, a monster on the kit. I mean, really, the guy was just an animal on drums. When you listen to those early albums, you really get the. If you listen closely, if you ever watched live footage of Sabbath playing in those early days, Bill Ward was an animal on drums, and to this day probably remains one of my favorite drummers. But yeah, it's their second album. It was actually their only hit album. It reached number one in the UK. What happened was they put out their first album called Black Sabbath, and while their albums, this one, their first one, they were all kind of bashed by the critics. They all sold well. I guess kids, they really liked it. So the band immediately went back into the studio. I had read that they recorded their first album, that whole first Sabbath album, in like a matter of hours. Like one day they went in there, recorded the whole album, and then were done with it. They mixed it and were done with it. And this one I think took maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks, some ridiculously short amount of time. And as they went on, made more albums and made more money and did more drugs. The albums took a little bit longer to make, but anyway. So this is obviously probably one of the most played out. It contains some of the most played out songs on classic rock radio ever. But I do have to say that anytime that I tend not to listen to classic rock radio as much as I used to. How many times can you listen to Dream On and Sweet Home Alabama? But when I do have something on, or I do happen to hear War Pigs or Iron Man, I still like it. Um, Still get a kick out of it. I mean, I grew up with this album. I'm always gonna like it on some level, and I think this is an album really that everybody should have. Everybody should give it a chance. Everybody knows War Pigs. Actually, that was gonna be the name of this album. Was War Pigs. Um, I read that they were a little bit worried about backlash from the Vietnam War going on at the time, so they decided to change the name to Paranoid. Actually, the album artwork is actually the original artwork, what they were going to call the album War Pigs. So there's a guy jumping out of the jumping out from behind a tree with a sword and a shield. That's the War Pig. Um, but anyway, um, they actually wrote Paranoid, the title track, as just kind of a filler song. They wrote it in like a half hour, I read. Um, Wrote it real quick and decided that that was probably the most commercially viable song from the album, and that was, I believe, their first single, and they named the album after it. But I'm not even talking about those bigger songs, War Pigs, Paranoid, Iron Man, even Fairies Wear Boots. The other songs are also just fantastic. Planet Caravan has got to be one of the most, I guess you would call it psychedelic, just really mellow, dreamy, but also has this dark kind of haunting thing to it as well. The lyrics are distorted and really low, and the whole song is very low, and I love it. It's just a fantastic song, and probably the only slower moment on this whole album. Electric Funeral, that great opening riff, just the whole thing, the chorus, it's just a fantastic song. Just a song, I guess, about the nuclear apocalypse. Hand of Doom, probably the centerpiece, really, of the album, or at least the second side. Basically about a heroin user, and the whole stages that the drug user would go through. It starts out for kicks, and they become addicted, and eventually it ruins them, and they die. So that's kind of the whole theme. But it's just a fantastic song. With it just goes up and down, up and down. A lot of quieter parts and then louder parts. Just fantastic. Then you have Rat Salad, which is guitar solos and drum solos, basically. And then Fairies Wear Boots, probably one of the best drug songs ever. Just about freaking out from, he says, smoking and tripping is all that you do. But just great riffs, great blues-based riffs throughout the entire album. Fantastic record. I mean, really. Again, this came out in 1970, and it was produced by Roger Bain, and it was a big hit for Vertigo. And I gotta say, it's just a fantastic record. To me, the first at least 4 or 5 Sabbath records are essential. Black Sabbath, Paranoid, Master of Reality, Volume 4, those are my favorite albums by them. Towards the end, I think they got a bit more bloated, and while they're still good songs and they're still good, not what they used to be. They kind of got too messed up on coke and pills and things like that, and and I'm not a big fan. I do like Dio, but I was never the biggest fan of Dio with Sabbath. I just happen to think that their early period, obviously, is their best. But anyway, yeah, Ozzy was fired in like 1979, basically from drinking and doing too many drugs and screwing up the direction of the band, and obviously he went on to have a huge solo career. And I was actually lucky enough to get to see the original Black Sabbath lineup when they had a reunion, I think in like 1998, 1999. I went to an Ozfest and got to actually see the original lineup play. And while it was like a greatest hits show, I mean, what do you expect? It was still fantastic, and I'm super thrilled that I got to see them. Really, check this out. If you're not, I mean, I'd be surprised if you're not. But if you're not familiar with this album, I highly recommend it. Go out and get it. It's just a fantastic, heavy rock, heavy metal, just masterpiece, and has influenced a ton of bands And yeah, so there you go. There's another vinyl collection must-haves in the can. Black Sabbath Paranoid. Buy it. Thanks for watching, guys, and leave me some comments, and take care.